Everybody. The children's time was going to be a discussion about the word contaminant. And without the children's time, the sermon won't make any sense. Now, it might not make any sense anyway, but thinking about the word contaminant and the definition that we put on that word, a contaminant is really just an element that wouldn't normally be in the mix of things. There are good contaminants and bad contaminants. When you think about it, we use the negative term contaminant, like contaminants are always bad things, but it isn't necessarily true. So we'll do the children's time demonstration of this, but if I took something that you eat and I sprinkled bitter or something all over it, and on the other I sprinkled sugar. Now you have two cookies that are contaminated, shall we say. One good and tasty with sugar, extra tasty, and one not so good because it's got something bitter on it. Life is kind of like that. We have good contaminants and bad contaminants. We are called to be good contaminants. We are called to bring God's love and God's light into situations where it isn't expected. And to contaminate the work of the bully, to contaminate the work of the negativity around us. So with that preamble and that sneak peek at children's time next week, because I'll probably hold on to it because, coming up with children's time ideas is sometimes not my forte. We'll talk about it somehow next week. I'll work it in as well. Let us pray. Lord, we ask that you give us the strength to be the person who stands up, steps out, and brings your word, your love, and your light into each and every situation we encounter. Let us be that positive contaminant that changes the situation in a good way and brings in your light, your love, your hope, and your justice in full view for everyone present to see, to feel, and to learn from. Amen. In that vein, let me start with a story that I saw on Facebook. I posted it to our Facebook page, so some of you may have already seen it. But it was dinner time, and Taco Bell was beginning to get very busy. People were in line, and it was a hubbub of activity. People are eating, and in walks this young woman with her 3 small children, all under the age of 10, to get dinner. And they are excitedly talking to one another, the kids at the end of their day, mom trying to get them fed before they go on to their next events and to their studying. She is obviously Muslim, dressed in a hijab and non-revealing clothes, as their tradition would ask that she do. But in every other way, very typical. Families getting on about their evening business. Behind them walks in an older gentleman, and very loudly he says, as he gets in line behind them, "Go back home, you towel-head terrorists. Trump is the president now." And the whole restaurant stops in its tracks. I'm sure many, like I would be thinking in disbelief why this would even happen, and then secondarily, what am I going to do about it? And in that space, a very large gentleman got up. He walked over and stopped the woman who was starting to head toward the door, talked to her quietly for a moment. They turned back around and they got in line behind the gentleman who had made the statement. And he said very loudly, "Ma'am, I served in the U.S. military to protect everyone in this country, including you and your beautiful children. Please allow me to accompany you through this line." And they rejoined the line behind the Trump supporter. And then the hero got in his face one more time and said, "Are you sure you want to eat here?" And the guy left. The entire restaurant broke out in applause.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now I ask you, who was the contaminant in that story? The family who was coming in to enjoy a meal? Probably no. They were listening to their stories of the day. The older man who disrupted the peace? Yeah. Kind of a negative contaminant. Not kind of, a negative contaminant. The man who stepped in to back up the woman? Yeah. An unexpected contaminant in the space. A positive contaminant. You see, that's how easily we can be a positive ingredient. That's how easily we can bring God's light and love and justice to bear on a situation. And I chuckle because in the story on Facebook, he's a biker dude. He's got a kerchief. So not necessarily the positive stereotype we would expect to be the positive contaminant, and yet I know lots of great biker dudes, so I have no issue with that. But again, we have these stereotypes of how people will enter into a situation and affect it. Let us hear from Matthew 5, our New Testament reading. Let me tell you why you're here. You are here to be the salt seasoning that brings out the God flavors of the earth. And if you lose your saltiness, how will people taste godliness? You will have lost your usefulness. And here's another way to put it. You are to be the light, bringing out the God colors in the world, for God is not a secret to be kept. You know, we're going public with this. We're going public like a city on a hill, because if I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on the light stand. Now that I've put you up on the hilltop, like the city on the hilltop, let your light shine. Keep your house open. Be generous with your lives. Be opening to others, because you'll be prompting people to be open to God. Don't suppose for a minute that I have come to demolish the Scriptures or God's law or the prophets, because I'm not here to demolish anything but to complete it. The speaker here is, as we talked last week, it's Jesus doing the Sermon on the Mount. Don't suppose for a minute I have come here to demolish the Scriptures, either God's laws or the prophets. I'm here to demolish, not to demolish, but to complete. I'm going to put it all together, pull it together in a vast panorama. God's law is more real and lasting than the stars in the sky and the ground at your feet. And long after the stars burn out and the earth wears out, God's law will be alive and working. Trivialize even the smallest item of God's law, and you will only have trivialized yourself. But take it seriously, show the way for others, and you will find honor in the kingdom. Unless you do far better than the Pharisees, the teachers in the temple. In the matters of right living, you won't know the first thing about entering heaven. The words of our Lord as he spoke and stood on the Sermon on the Mount. And you know, he's talking about how we should enter into the community that we are part of. We should enter into it bringing positiveness, light, and love, and justice. When we talk about contaminants, I always think about alchemy. Alchemy, the medieval predecessor to chemistry and physics. It was concerned generally with finding a chemical that would help turn other things that were of non-value into value, like silver and gold. But it was also a great study about how God's creation was made. And they began the work of taking apart the ingredients that we were made of. An interesting thing about this exploration of substances is that it took place in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. Now think about when the printing press was made. Mid 1800s, early 1800s, right in there. 4,000 books were printed on alchemy in the 16th, 17th, and 18th century. That's how much energy was going in to trying to figure out how things were made. You can't imagine the concoctions they cooked up while they were trying to figure this out. I'm sure they cleared out more than one house. But the mixing of ingredients, the mixing of people, the mixing of cultures, the mixing of races, the mixing of traditions, it's the same kind of approach that alchemy was taking. And you know, the United States has been really good at this work. We've been alchemists in this area for many, many centuries now. God knew that for creation to be successful, it had to be multifaceted. It had to contain millions of ingredients. It would contain many types of everything. That's the way the world is made. That's the world that we live in, the great creation that God made for us. It's full of contaminants, positive and negative, pluses and minuses, but all important. You know, adding us to a situation can make it better or worse. Sometimes I make situations better when I come in. And sometimes I walk away thinking, you should just stayed out of that. You didn't help one bit when you walked in there and ran your mouth. Cooking is a traditional alchemic experience. Last Sunday I got home, I had some apples in my kitchen, and I looked at them and thought, what am I going to do with those apples? And I thought, I know, apple crisp. Great winter day kind of yummy treat. All those caramelized apples to enjoy, nice and sweet. And so I quick mixed everything up, popped it in the oven, went off to write the bulletin for this week, and thought, okay, time for some really good apple crisp. Opened up the stove and pulled it out. I had apples floating in a sea of butter and brown sugar and maybe had ice cream topping at best, but I did not have apple crisp. I'd forgotten a very important ingredient. I'd forgotten to put a little flour in the crisp. Or I could have put in oatmeal, but a thickener. A thickening agent, a ingredient that would have made it that delicious caramelized sweetness that I was craving. Instead, I had this ooey gooey runny bunch of not much of anything. That flour would have been an important contaminant in that recipe. So you have to decide what kind of a contaminant you're going to be for God. If you're the one who stands up for women and children and ensures that they get their dinner, or you could be the one that turns a brawling and intolerant community into a loving, justice-seeking community. Or if you're like flour, you could strengthen the bonds that bring things together and truly let it become what it could become. But I hope you will make yourself a positive contaminant in the creation we're all part of. That you will bring your light and your love and the justice that you've learned about as an instructed Christian. That you will bring that to bear each and every day. For it's in that small modeling of what it means to be a light giver, a hope bringer, a justice sayer, that we strengthen that community we are part of. From Ephesians 4, some selective verses to think about. In light of all of this, here's what I want you to do. And this is the Apostle Paul. I want you to get out there and walk. Better yet, run on the road God called you to travel. I don't want you to just be sitting around. I want you to make a mark. I want you to bring humility and discipline, not in fits and starts, but steadily pouring it out for everyone. in acts of love. And be alert in noticing differences and altercations to mend the fences and bring people together, because you're called to travel this same road, this same direction, to stay together, both outwardly and inwardly. You have one God, you have one faith, you have one baptism, which rules over all and works through all and is present in all. It does not mean that you should all look and speak the same. Out of God's generosity, each has their own gift. Cherish these gifts, for together these gifts are the strength that God would have us work with. And so I hope you'll be a positive Christian contaminant, the one who affirms diversity, the one who supports inclusion, the one who stands with the small and the oppressed, the one who shines light on the bullies and the bullying, the one who realizes that there's not enough room for your own self-promotion, one who realizes that you're not here to rape and pillage the richness of God's creation, one who realizes you are here to encourage the goodness and the growth of others, one who is encouraged to expose untruths, one who is empowered to expose those who incorrectly claim Christianity as theirs. God's law is alive, God's law is working because it's in you and through you every day, because you don't trivialize even the smallest items of God's law. You don't trivialize yourself, but you take it seriously and you show the way for others. And you will find ways to honor God's creation. Amen. How about hymn number 528 in the New Century Hymnal, You Are the Seed.